From Fox Cities Stadium in Grand Chute, Wisconsin, here we're wrapping up day one of the 2016 Division III Baseball World Series on d3baseball.com. I'm Pat Coleman, he's Jim Dixon, and mission accomplished. No, wait, we only got 2 of our 4 games in. Half of the games on the schedule got played because of a grand total of about 7 hours worth of rain delays, in and around which Cortland defeated Emory by a score of 1-0, and then Trinity of Texas finished off Wisconsin lacrosse with an 8-0 score. Jim, first of all, for those of us who watched us on our Facebook Live during the rain delay number 2/3 of the afternoon, we talked quite a bit about the Cortland Emory game, but I think we're going to be repeating some of it here for this audience. First of all, a fantastic pitching performance, really by both pitchers, who each came out after long rain delays and were dominant in the second half of those games, or the second 2/3 of that game.
One of the things you see on the first day is you see some of the best pitching performances, and we certainly were not disappointed because both the Emory and the Cortland pitcher were just on their game today.
Seth Lamondo came back out after the delay to finish off his complete game shutout through a 6-hitter, struck out 10, walked just 3, in improving to 10-0. Jim went back through the record book. It's the 25th complete game shutout in Division III World Series history, which is a little over 40 years. Is that right? Did I get the math right?
Something like that. So.
Yeah, but really Jackson Weig just as well. He came back out. He gave up the solo home run to Paul Dondero, which was a 7th inning solo shot, the only run of the game. Tough luck loss as he falls to 7-1, but he went the complete game as well. Also gave up just 6 hits, walked 1, and just the fact that Dondero hit that ball out of the park. Or we could still be playing that game now.
one bad pitch, and that's all it took. And the margin was very slim for the Emory-Cortland game, and Emory just came on the losing end. They're going to come back. They're going to come back not like losers. They're going to think. They're going to play the elimination game just like they won the game before, and the coach stressed that in the press conferences, and they really have nothing to hang their heads about.
Because of the rain, the schedule for Saturday and for Sunday have been altered a little bit. We'll get to that a little bit later in the course of this show, but back to Dondero for a second. This is a freshman shortstop for the Red Dragons, sprinted the bases like he'd never hit a home run before, kind of trying to make up, I guess, for the fact that we'd lost almost 2 hours of game time. He was, as you wrote in your story, basically in the dugout by the time the umpire finished giving the home run signal.
I certainly can appreciate the ability to sit there and speed that game along. But, he ran those bases like he was angry, and we're not exactly sure what he was angry about.
Yeah.
He had one of the better hitting performances of the night. Or the morning, or the afternoon.
Of all the times the games were played, and many times the games were not played on Friday. So Cortland moves into the winner's bracket. They will not play until Sunday, and we'll talk a little bit more about that coming up in a moment. The Red Dragons improved to 42-6. Emory falls to 34-11, and once again loses their first round game here at the Division III World Series. Moving to the afternoon cap, as I called it, a game that started at 3:30 and ended around 11-something. A game that rain delayed nearly 5 hours after the 4th inning. Trinity of Texas went into the break leading 3-0. Both of the starters came back out. Caleb Bowsley for lacrosse, Ryan Gray for Trinity, and each pitched pretty good 5th innings. And then Texas, the Tigers of Trinity, Texas, just really got to Bowsley in the 6th.
And that was really the key. Last year, very similar situation. Trinity goes into a rain delay with a 3-run lead, and they end up giving up a lot of runs late and losing the game. And in this instance, they were able to sit there and hold a very potent UW lacrosse offense to no runs, and then tack on 3 more of their own on the 6th.
The Eagles, of course, when you talk about the Eagles offense, you got to talk about Taylor Colway. Came into the week with a 49-game hitting streak. He extended that. He went 3 for 5 on Friday to extend that to 50 games. But Justin Anderson batting behind him 0 for 5 with 3 strikeouts. And when Colway batted, there weren't guys on base. Joel Zahowski and Alex Cordova, a combined 1 for 7.
And these are all region players. You expect them to swing the bat, you expect them to sit there and hit it. But, Ryan Gray, he just had him guessing, and his fastball was working well, and he was spotting it well. So, he could throw it in his zone, he could throw it out of his zone. He really was the reason that Trinity is moving on.
Yeah, Gray goes 6 innings. He does come back and pitch 2 innings after the rain delay. Gives up 8 hits, walks 4, but strikes out 6. Kevin Flores and Gianfrico Filippini came on to finish the game. So those are we talked about the offensive numbers for lacrosse. Let's talk about the offensive numbers for the team that actually scored some runs. For example, Carter McEachern with 3 RBIs after the rain, a double, and then a 2-run homer in the bottom of the 8th to wrap things up and really solidify this game away, and hits all up and down the lineup for the Tigers.
It really was. And you got to credit Nick Jewett. He had 2 singles, each driving in runs, 2-out singles. Those were clutch hits. And while the Trinity Tigers were sitting rocketing runs with 2 outs, the Eagles of University of W La Crosse they could not find a 2-out hit like they have been used to seeing in the past 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, the Eagles left 13 runners on base. Bosley takes the loss. He falls to 10-1. Gray with the win improves to 9-3. So, there were 4 other teams, a couple of which came to the ballpark on Friday expecting to play and did not. So we will see them on Saturday. Pool B, Pod B, or the bottom half of the bracket, however you want to refer to it. It really bothers me that they call them pools because we don't have enough pools already in Division III. That's really complicated for people who just jump in and try to figure this stuff out. So the second grouping, or the grouping of teams that, say, didn't play in last year's World Series. Those are who take the field now on Saturday. We start at scheduled for 10 a.m. Central Time with St. John Fisher versus Keystone, and then Wisconsin Whitewater versus La Roche will follow at a game that is scheduled for 1:15. In all honesty, Jim, rain doesn't look like it's going to be our friend, or the weather doesn't look like it's going to be our friend here in Appleton for the next few days.
We're going to have some rain early, so we might see some early delays. We may get the games on time. And certainly we're not going to end the games on time because it's really hard to fit 4 games into the schedule that they have because just not enough time. But I think everybody wants to get 4 games in tomorrow, especially the committee.
If not, we will, of course, give you reruns of the 1976 All-Star Game and follow-ups, bleeps, and blunders. No. So the second set of games are going to be the elimination games. So this is where the schedule alters a little bit. So Wisconsin Lacrosse will play Emory in the 3rd game of the day, assuming there's a 3rd game of the day. I would say it's obviously tentatively scheduled for 4:30 Central. And then the losers of those first 2 games will come back and play in the nightcap if there is a 4th game. And Trinity and Cortland, it's a little early in the tournament, obviously, Jim, to say you're sitting pretty, but you do get an entire day off, and they don't come back until Sunday morning.
And they're also not going to use a pitcher tomorrow, which means that if they want a second pitcher to come on short rest, they're going to have their second pitcher, instead of pitching on Saturday, have him pitch on Sunday. So that really has repercussions further on down the tournament.
Yeah, Cortland has used basically nobody in the course of this tournament other than Seth Lamondo, who threw, I think by one estimate or one count, 160 pitches in striking out 10 and pitching that complete game shutout. Trinity, loses Gray for a few days. He came back after the break. As he said in the post-game news conference, though, it's not the longest break he's come back to finish a game in.
He's used to seeing some of these long delays in summer ball.
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons that you saw some pitchers coming out of Trinity is that they already knew they were going to have a day off if they won. And so why not throw a couple relievers in, get a couple innings? It makes a lot of sense to sit there and get them some work when you know they're going to at least get a day's rest and be sitting at poolside in the Paper Valley Lion.
Is there a pool at the Paper Valley?
There is a pool in the Paper Valley.
Learn something every day here. That's Jim Dixon. I'm Pat Coleman, wrapping up day 1 here from Appleton. Stay tuned. Look for all the rest of our coverage on d3baseball.com, including a great feature story on 2 players from New York, in Conrad Ziemendorf and Witkowski, whose first name, I can get the last name now, I can't remember the first name. Yeah, we're going to do this live right now because there is no retaking once you're 12 minutes in.
Cody Witkowski. And
I'm sure that's right.
Yeah, and what really sparked my interest, and I wasn't aware of, is that his uncle is Jeff Witkowski, who was a standout player for Marietta, and he played 3 or 4 of these World Series.
I think all 4, right?
for Marietta, and he really was quite successful as an outfielder for the Pioneers.
So look for that. Look for complete photographic coverage from d3photography.com, and look for videos of the post-game news conferences. All of that and live tweeting and all that on d3baseball.com. For Jim Dixon, I'm Pat Coleman. We'll be back tomorrow.